In this video, a homeowner association president and her so-called cops raided my garage claiming my business is stealing cars in the neighborhood. Here is what happened. Welcome back to Ripe Stories. So my name is Joe and I'm a business owner in an industrial sector in a small town in South Africa. It borders on a community which is great for my business as I get clients from all over. They like my fair prices and quality work. My garage repairs cars as well as does body work and custom paint jobs. My employees and I enjoy the work we do and for the most part things have been good. We make decent money and I'm able to provide a nice life for all of us who work at the shop as well as for my wife and children. Lately, things have not been as good though, at least where my neighbors are concerned. Karen is the HOA president in the neighborhood that borders on my shop. Her fancy and pristine house overlooks my shop. She sees my business as an eyesore and a blemish on her otherwise perfect suburban landscape. A few months ago, she stopped by my shop and said, "Why don't you look at selling your shop? Then your garage could be turned into something nice, a park or maybe some new properties." I'm not selling my shop, and if I wanted to, it would not be to have my life's work torn down. I studied hard to become a mechanic and a business owner. I also provide a living for other people. I'm not breaking any rules. I'm sorry if you don't like my business, but all you have to do is plant some more trees if it bothers you that much. I would have liked to think that was the end of it, but it wasn't. I began to get inspections from the municipality. They told me that they'd had some complaints about my business. However, they found nothing wrong because I always make sure to keep up to date on the local regulations, going as far as to read the monthly minutes from the council and to belong to my local Chamber of Commerce. "We are sorry for the intrusion," they would say when they'd find nothing but often have to be back for some other complaint another day. I've heard everything lately, from the fact that I've been storing materials unsafely to that I'm a front for a car theft ring. However, every time everything has been unfounded claims. The officials cannot tell me where the complaints are coming from, but I highly suspect it is Karen, as she sometimes calls me asking if I'm ready to sell yet. And well, each time my answer is the same: absolutely not. A week eventually passed with no intrusions, and I was glad to be able to breathe a little. I was also pleased because a local car club had contacted me as they were preparing for a classic car show. They contacted me to repair several vintage vehicles. I was excited to be able to work on the kind of vehicles that my dad and granddad had taught me about growing up. The cars, some rare and valuable, were parked both inside and outside of my shop on my land. Things were going smoothly along with the work until a few days later, Karen came into my garage. She was wearing a fancy suit that must have cost her a pretty penny, and there were two men with her. I'd heard around town that she called them the HOA cops. "You've had a lot of vehicles here lately," said Karen. "We would like to see your shop. We have reason to believe that you are running a chop shop, stripping down vehicles that you found in our neighborhood. Seems that you've gotten bold about it too, with so many cars inside and out. But we are here to tell you that your time is up. We want to see exactly what's going on around here, and all of these cars better have proper paperwork." "They do," I replied, and then I tried to explain about the latest contract I had, even though I knew I did not even need to explain anything to her. She was the president of the HOA, which I did not even belong to and had no reason to, as my shop was in an industrial sector where garages were allowed to operate. And actually, my garage was in operation before I bought it. The previous owner, who I had worked for before purchasing, retired, and then I said, "I don't think you're dressed to walk around in a garage, by the way, Karen. Heels are not practical in here." "You're just using that as an excuse," scoffed Karen. "Fine," I replied. "I'll show you around, and then I want you to leave so that my employees and I can go about our work. We got people waiting on their vehicles." I gave Karen and her companions a tour of the shop, showing her that my employees were doing things like changing oil and replacing parts, not stripping things up to make a quick and illegal buck. Then I showed her the registrations for each of the cars on the property. I even showed her my business licenses and certificates, as well as the documents from the latest municipal inspections proving that things were fine here. "Forgeries, all of it," said Karen. "You must be paying someone off at City Hall. Who do you have in your pocket?" "I assure you, ma'am," I replied, trying to be calm and businesslike, "everything that I do here is above board." I once again reiterated about the car club and even offered to call one of the members. However, she told me that I would just pay them to say whatever I wanted. I felt so frustrated by this woman who refused to leave even when I had shown her everything and calmly asked her to allow me to get back to work. I was sure she must have somewhere else she'd rather be, but she just told me that she needed to make sure that justice was served. Finally, one of her HOA cops, and by the way, if you're curious, yes, they wore black uniforms with the title HOA Police on them, said that they needed to go as they had to pick up their kid at school. So they left altogether, but not before Karen promised to get to the bottom of things. My hopes of things getting better and getting some peace of mind were futile as a few days later I began to see things circulating on Facebook smearing my business and accusing me of stealing people's vehicles and pretending to fix them. It was also on a neighborhood WhatsApp chat and urged residents to boycott the shop. It was not long before members of the car club began to come and pick up their vehicles even when I tried to explain my side of things. Turns out that Karen has a lot of clout in the community. Her husband is a well-respected businessman too. Other clients began to cancel, citing the things they had read. Some apologized as we had done business for years, but they said that they did not want to be any part of anything potentially sketchy. I tried to understand their point of view, but as my shop emptied out and only a few vehicles remained, I did not know what to do anymore other than send my employees home, promising them that I would pay them when I could for the missed work as it was not their fault. I could not sleep at night and began to suffer from panic attacks as I worried how I would care for my family and my employees. My wife noticed my behavior and called me out on it. I did not even know what to tell her, but I also knew that I could not allow Karen to get away with what she was doing. And no amount of reasoning was gonna work with her because she would not listen to what I had to say or believe the proof. The Facebook post had said that the cops would be checking in, so I was not surprised when I saw them pull into my yard. Karen had called 101 on me. It's the South Africa equivalent to 911 in the US. Basically, she had falsely reported my business as being a chop shop even though I had already shown her that I was a legitimate business. The municipal inspectors had already been over everything a few times too. It was humiliating to see the police cars outside my shop with their red and blue flashing lights. However, I had nothing to hide and was completely forthcoming and cooperative with them. I showed them the paperwork for the vehicles on my lot, despite there not being many left. When the police left, they stated that they needed to pay Karen a visit. I hope that she issues a retraction too, I replied. That Facebook post and her WhatsApp messages have caused me and my business a lot of harm. There are real people involved here. We understand, sir, said the police. She'll be issued a stern warning about making false police reports and told that she needs to take down the posts. We cannot force her to issue a retraction, but we can make sure that people are aware that we did our job and things are all above board here. I thanked them and went back to work hoping that I would get some customers back in the next few days. I wanted to be able to get back up in full swing, especially with the car show approaching rapidly. But to my surprise, as I walked outside with the police, Karen was standing in the yard. I don't know what she was expecting, maybe to see me get arrested. However, that did not happen. I listened to the police talk to her. "He is ruining the neighborhood aesthetic," complained Karen as she went on ranting about the situation. Over the next few days, I got back a few customers, but not like I had hoped. Karen did not take down her accusations and continued to make them. Honestly, at that point, I'd had enough, and armed with a police report and an audio recording I'd made of Karen's latest rant outside my shop, I filed a defamation lawsuit against Karen and the HOA enforcers that she had with her. Fearing that there would be financial and legal ramifications for them, Karen and her HOA buddies retracted their accusations and were forced to issue a public apology. My customers rallied behind me, and soon I had more work than I knew what to do with. They've been posting positive reviews about my business online, and word about my business has spread farther than I ever expected. My employees came back, and we even ended up having to do some overtime to catch up and be ready for the car show. While the incident had initially been negative, I found a way to find the positive in it, and now instead of just having myself and 3 others working in my shop, I will likely need to hire more employees. If things keep up as they are, I might even see about purchasing more land to be able to expand. I know that won't sit well with Karen and the others on the HOA, but as long as I'm operating within the municipal bylaws, there's nothing that they can do. Their reputation has been tarnished and they know they won't be able to come after me again. I'm in the right and they cannot do anything about it. I'm finally sleeping again at night and my wife and family are back to being a top priority of mine. I have to admit though that I was rather distant when I was trying to deal with this whole mess because I was so worried about what was gonna happen. And the next one is an amazing malicious compliance story that you don't want to miss. And by the way, if you've watched until here, please don't forget to like the video since that would help me tremendously. About 3 years ago, my wife and I bought our house. We realized at the time that most of the house maintenance was poorly maintained. Or I suppose that the house was poorly maintained. Renters used to live in the house before us. One of the larger projects that needed to be done was a full driveway replacement, as the original driveway had not been refinished or maintained in almost 30 years. Knowing that we would need to replace the driveway, my wife and I started planning ahead for the eventual project. We decided at the time that we would also like to expand our driveway. We are one of only 3 houses in my neighborhood to not have a 3-car garage, so we decided that we would expand our driveway out so that we could at least have a 3rd stall, even if it was outside of our garage. In order to expand the driveway, we had to get 3 bids out. Bid 1 was for the driveway people themselves, 1 was to our underground sprinklers maintenance as the expansion would move our existing lines, and finally, due to our land not being 100% flat, the final bid was to a landscaper to build a retaining wall in order to create a flat enough spot to expand our driveway. Due to the various companies working on this project, it meant that we had to make sure all 3 companies could work within the same timelines. The sprinklers were simple enough and not really an issue. The driveway people were great and gave us over a month of wiggle room to make everything work. The problem came from the landscaping company. We made them intimately aware of our timelines and explained the scope of the work, and they assured us multiple times that the deadlines would work. We had the landscapers for the first week after the driveway was ripped up, however, the landscapers never showed up. We called and rescheduled for the next week, and again, the landscapers did not show up. This happened twice more before it was literally the day before the driveway people were due back to finish the driveway, and the landscaping still was not done. The landscapers finally showed up and I talked to them before I left for work that day, gave them my cell phone and some Gatorades before I left and told them if there were any issues to please call me immediately. Got home from work to find 0 progress done on the project. Turns out the second I had left, the landscapers packed up and went to another job. I actually called the owner and complained about his team. I've never been so mad about something. The project manager called me back and assured me that they wanted the driveway done first and the landscaping would follow, and that he personally would fix anything that was messed up as a result. Fine, the driveway was poured and the results were to be expected, pretty brutal. About a week later, the landscapers finally built their wall and then added some finishing crap to the driveway. It looked terrible, especially for a brand new driveway. They then sent me my bill for the completed job, and I immediately wrote back with pictures and explained that I was not paying for this job until it didn't look like crap and that I expected the landscapers to fix the mess they made. Well, I got ignored, and at this point they had started ignoring most of my communications until, that is, about 3 months passed and the landscaper realized I was serious about not paying for their shoddy work. They reached out to me to figure out what was going on here, which is when they finally looked at my email about the terrible work and my refusal to pay. By this point in time, it was Christmas and everything around me was frozen. The landscaper lamented not having a chance to fix their shoddy work before months had passed, and I lamented them ignoring my communications about the project being subpar in the first place. We discussed some ways to fix their F-up and settled on one that would at least make things look nicer, but would reduce my driveway width by about a foot. A solution I didn't like, but would at least mostly fix my issues. I left for work one day and came home to my driveway just fixed. No note, no communication, they just came in and did it one day when they had time. Again, not exactly how I would have wanted it, but it was okay. My wife and I went back and forth before ultimately deciding to just pay everything, swear off the landscaper forever, and move on. The whole project had taken over 6 months and we were just done with it all. We paid the bill and moved on. Then about 5 months later, just before spring and summer was set to start, the landscaper started spamming my inbox with requests for reviews. This is right when most project biddings go out, so they were looking to boost their online visibility to get projects for the next year. I ignored the first 10 or so emails that came through before deciding maybe I can actually write them a review, and I did. I wrote the exact experience I had with them, highlighted the lack of communication, the unprofessionalism, the frequent missed deadlines, and I even included pictures. Within a week I received a Google reward because my review had over 1,000 views. The owner actually called me after a week and asked what he could do to make things right, which I told him that we were almost a year from the original project without a time machine, there wasn't much we could do here. All in all, the project was kind of a failure. We expanded the driveway, but now it's a very tight squeeze and so people rarely use the third slot. I now mostly just get mad when I see the retaining wall. I did get a ton of Google rewards for my review and I hope it saved a ton of people the headache I went through with the landscaper. I was content with letting them screw me over and just moving on with a lesson learned. But they were persistent with their email campaign. Maybe don't ask people you screwed over to write you reviews. The next one is a petty revenge story. So an insurance company has been investigating our shop for supposedly insurance fraud over a car with a bad engine that was replaced with what we and the cops later found out to be a stolen one. A few weeks ago I noticed a clean spot on my really dirty truck that I never wash and checked it out and found a GPS tracker. I didn't plan on keeping the truck this year and had plans to ship it into Mexico in the spring. I told my friend about the tracker and said he's gonna take care of it when he picks the truck up. My friend took the truck into the most cartel-infested place in Sonora and disabled it there. I already had a new truck under someone else's name, so I drove that around to parts stores and dealers. I was leaving a dealer when a clean-cut guy asked if I owned an old truck and told I used to, and he then identified himself as a private detective working for the insurance company and was curious about what happened to my old truck. I cracked a joke that sometimes it wanders off at night and usually comes back when it's on a quarter tank, usually 6 to 8 months. He tried to nonchalantly ask me where the truck might physically be, and that's when I told him I had found the tracker. He knew I knew, and his tone changed, asking for it back like a kid who got his ball bullied away from him. I told him the truck is in Mexico with a written address for it and who to talk to about getting it back. He knew he could not call the cops because his ass would get arrested, but tried again to demand his GPS back. I brushed him off and told him he can get it back from Mexico himself, and that was the last I saw of him. We found another GPS in a different truck at work, so we took it to the desert and blew it up. I'm sure they've been GPSing us thinking we had some kind of insane stolen car parts hoard, but all our stuff comes from dealers and scrapyards. And the next one is another petty revenge story. My girlfriend is currently being her adorable self and baking in the kitchen. She's doing her thing with the hangover on in the background and her favorite giant bear hoodie on. I think today she is using Just Hood lemon bar recipe. If you don't know it, then check it out. It's really delicious. Anyway, it reminded me this from a few years ago. Girlfriend and I worked for the same company in different areas on different floors. This was pre-pandemic, so my girlfriend loves baking and sharing more than eating the stuff herself. Also, big news for those that have read my previous posts, my girlfriend has moved in. Man, I am ecstatic. Anyway, girlfriend would bring in her goods maybe 3 times a week and the head of her department, Matt, got a little tin and made a little sign, something like, "If you enjoyed the treat, please leave a contribution to GF so she can keep baking." Then there was Karen. I go down to my girlfriend's floor one day to talk to someone and the vibe is off. GF looks kind of withdrawn. People are buzzing, Matt looks furious and the treats are on Matt's desk. It turns out that someone emptied the contribution tin and left a note saying the last few baked goods were not up to par, so they emptied the tin as a form of refund for past contributions. Girlfriend had a hard night, thought about baking something gross as revenge, got upset thinking maybe her baking really is crap. Considered stopping altogether. I told her to consider stopping giving them away for free instead. Next day, I'm called into a meeting. Most of upper management, client services, etc. are there. We are talking about the baking and the note and people were pissed. I would love to say it was because my girlfriend was universally adored, as she should be, but it was mostly the bullying and how the baked goods were free for our company but great for our morale. Matt spoke to girlfriend and basically said if she wanted to keep baking, he would love it, and a few colleagues had decorated an empty desk on the 3rd floor specifically for people to share their baked goods under a camera near my team. Girlfriend is professional, but man, she almost cracked when she saw the table. I'll try to find a picture. Anyway, the tin was replaced with a tiny padlock. Next time Karen appeared for a treat, a woman from my team jumped up and stopped her, telling her that they were not up to par and basically told her to F off. More people started baking and Matt would share out the contributions. A picture of the table full of amazing goodies even made it to our website for a while. Karen ended up putting in a complaint about her entire floor. Apparently, every time she tried leading a training session, people started telling her that her teachings were not up to par. She tried smoothing it over, not by apologizing, but by bringing in a tray of cheap donuts with a stupid sign saying that no contribution was needed. These were actually good and free. Those donuts had exactly 2 taken, one by Karen and the other returned with 1 bite missing and a note that said, "Not up to par." Matt even called their next team outing "Who's Up to Party?" Apparently Karen started complaining that she was trying to inspire my girlfriend to do better, that buying her own treats was way more expensive and she needed a little treat to keep going some days. That now more people were baking, so really she had inspired them. That she didn't know how to get past my team, who she couldn't insult and historically sucked up to. Karen tried demanding the snacks move back downstairs, but was told the note was deemed bullying and the downstairs canteen without cameras was not up to par. This went on until the pandemic hit. F Karen, and my girlfriend's baking is awesome. Edit, a few people in the comments have pointed out that I skipped over how everyone knew it was Karen. So Karen was really open about having written the note. Once the baking was a bigger thing, she even started saying that her note inspired my girlfriend and everyone else to do better, like she should be thanked for being a Karen. This woman never admitted to stealing the money though, and I don't think anyone cared enough to go after her for it. And yeah guys, before we end the video, I will read one last malicious compliance story. It is titled, "Don't Wanna Reimburse Me?" Okay, so I work as a breakfast cook for the largest hotel chain in the world at a 4-star single-lettered hotel in the largest French-speaking province in Canada. Which I suppose is Quebec, but I could be wrong. Either way, each cook is given a stipend of $200 to buy personal equipment, peelers, rasps, knives, etc. I bought a 7-inch non-stick ceramic frying pan for myself. They have 7-inch Teflon pans here already, but due to people not taking care of them, they are mostly scratched. It's worth noting that our current chef was brought in to lower the costs of the kitchen, so our quality of food has gone down drastically. During the holiday break while I was off, they bought new egg pans, but they were 8 inches instead of our traditional 7. When I filed my receipt, I was told by HR that the pan I bought would not be reimbursed. I paid $35 for it, and they told me that the hotel is supposed to cover the cost of pans, so too bad, so sad. Well, fine then, I thought, I will use your larger pans for omelets. Now you gotta understand, our omelets are too big for the plates and I have to use more inventory to make the omelets look like we are not skimping on our product. Well, good thing you guys would not pay me back for the pan that costs half the price of what you bought the new pans for at a larger size it cost. And now I have a nice egg pan for at home, whenever, whatever. And yeah guys, thank you very much for watching, I will see you again tomorrow.